Hello and welcome to another Tech Campus Coffee Live webinar. This is an opportunity for you to learn about career paths at Tech directly from professionals in your field.
We'll be speaking to technical representatives from a variety of fields at Tech, and they'll share why they enjoy what they do.
Participants also have a chance to directly ask speakers and recruiters questions and get a good understanding of why Tech is a great place to work, as well as where your strengths, talents, and learning opportunities lie.
All right, so without further ado, I want to introduce a couple of our guests here today that are going to share some of their experiences with us. And so first we'll start with Jared. So maybe Jared, if you want to do a quick intro of yourself, tell us a little about yourself and what you do here at Tech.
Sure. I am a mining engineer from the U of A, graduated 2013. Got my PEng 2020, so a little later than some of you hopefully will be as you start your career. Been in the short range planning and operations space for the first 6 years of my career and moved into race and technology, deploying those big data solutions to the frontline operators and supervisors over the last year and a half, 2 years. I was also a student at Tech. It took me 6 months to get hired back, so don't be discouraged if you're a student and you don't get hired back right away.
Awesome, Jared. I'm like, wait a minute, didn't you mention? So great. All right, and then I want to pass it over to Varun. Maybe Varun, if you could give an introduction of yourself as well and what you do here, and then we'll get into some questions for you guys.
Yep. All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Varun, and I'm a data scientist with the Race 21 team. Probably one of the early ones to be hired into Race. So I started at Tech in 2019 as a co-op student. I was doing my master's degree in mining engineering at the UBC. So just shows you how much ownership and what kind of an opportunities that you can get at Tech. As a co-op student, I was roped into this major digital transformation program. So it just speaks a lot about how much ownership you can get at Tech. So yeah, and as soon as I was done with my co-op, I was rehired as a data scientist.
Great. Awesome, Varun. Okay, great. So maybe again, I know Masaki's put a note in the chat there, but feel free. I've got lots of questions in my pocket, and surely I can keep these guys chatting. But I definitely want to make sure that we're answering the questions that you guys want to know the answers to. So feel free to either, like Masaki had mentioned at the beginning, either put your hand up and we'll get to you and come around and answer your questions. You can put your mic on, or also you can put it in the chat, and I'll just make sure that I'm asking all the questions that are popping up in the chat as well. So feel free to do so. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased. I do a lot of the campus hiring, and obviously co-op students are sort of my a bit of a soft spot for me. But I think a good place was to start, consider you both came from co-op and moved into full-time roles. Maybe you could talk to us a little bit. Maybe I'll start with you, Jared. Besides bugging me with emails for a few months after you finished your co-op, what did you do, you think, or what led you from co-op to full-time? What sort of things did you do, you think, in your position that got you here?
Yeah, so I think first for me, when I got the co-op opportunity with Tech, I was incredibly excited. I knew at that time that this is where I wanted to come upon graduation. So I knew that it was for me, it was an 8-month term. I knew it was an 8-month trial. So I went in with that mentality. Hopefully, you go into all of your co-ops with that mentality. The mining industry is small, and you will work with and run into people again, whether you intend to be at that company or working for that individual. You'll probably come across them again either way. So first thing is, put your attitude in check right out the gate. So I spent a lot of my 8-month co-op, probably 1 day a week. I spent doing very stereotypical co-op work, which isn't the most exciting at times. It has to be done. Everybody in the business has done it at some point, and it's critical to everything that we do. So if you put a smile on and work hard and look to optimize and better those processes, so it's easier for the co-op that replaces you, that's what really makes your mark, right? You're going to get at Tech really good opportunities as co-ops to work on some pretty big picture projects, especially in the technology space. But what people are going to remember you for is your attitude, your willingness to, get your hands dirty or help out whenever asked. Not always the really cool project you got an opportunity to put your name beside. So I'd say it's all about attitude.
Awesome. Thanks, Jared. All right, Varun, I'll maybe pass the same question over to you. What sort of things did you do that impressed your supervisor that convinced them to bring you back?
100% agreed with Jared on the attitude, and you always need to show that willingness to learn. And it's totally okay to not know something, and it's totally okay to sound stupid in meetings. And you always need to have those questions. Questions need to lead to answers. And I didn't know most of the tech that I'm using right now, and they gave me the opportunity to learn and apply at the same time. And as I always say, the ownership that you get as a co-op in tech role is as good as a full-time employee. So keep working, hard work and attitude. They'll notice you, and you'll be rehired in no time.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's something I always say, and it's great to hear both of you guys sort of mention that we give you real work. Yeah, there's some other stuff that maybe is not always the most glamorous, but the type of work you get to do as a co-op here, it's you're making an impact, and you're going to do real work, and you're getting to take on real responsibility, and that makes it pretty exciting, and obviously lots of opportunity then to make an impression as well, which is helpful for sure. Okay, I'm going to jump to the chat because there's a couple of questions there. Someone's asked about the LTE technology being implemented in the automation goal and the automation goals for the trucks. I don't know, Jared, do you want to speak to a little bit about some of the technologies used around our haul trucks?
Yeah, I'm not an expert in the LTE space, but I can speak for the site that I'm at and our actual journey that we've been going on, probably over the last few years, but really over the last 8 months on improving our overall connectivity in the pit, right? Whether that's LTE boosters in the truck, an entire new LTE infrastructure, Wi-Fi. As we're doing this mass ramp up of technology and data-driven solutions to the front line, what we're running into is bandwidth issues, connection issues, where your high walls and spoils are, right, and dead zones. So it's definitely a high ticket item on tech's radar across everything. We have multiple different options for LTE that we're looking at, and each site has a different business case. Some are autonomous right now. They already have LTE. They already need it. Others, it's undetermined if it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 5 years before they go autonomous. So they're looking at the most cost-effective option to be ready for autonomous, but still support our technology that we have right now. So it's a bit of a case-by-case basis, and every site is looking at it individually, but also with the central projects group, LTE as a whole. I don't know if that's kind of vague, but
no, that was helpful. Thank you very much for that.
Thanks, Thomas. Great. And then, Vern, I guess in terms of safety too, I maybe you can speak to it from a general standpoint, how automation is really affecting our safety. Or I guess how does automation really impact our safety at operations?
Yeah, it's really good that you brought up. So all these technologies not only being used to improve our productivity and efficiency, where you have certain metrics like you make some millions, right? So what's important is we are using RAISE to pioneer some of the latest technology in safety as well. For example, one of the biggest challenges in a mining site is vehicle interactions. These light vehicles, the pickup trucks, and how they interact with the heavy haul trucks. They're really tiny compared to haul trucks. So vision is always the problem when these two are interacting on haul roads. And I can specifically talk to this because a few of my colleagues are working on this light vehicle safety app. It's not going to generate millions, but what it's going to ensure is we are applying technology so that it aligns with our vision that everyone goes home safe. So that's really important. I see being technology being applied.
No, and it's definitely one of the main priorities for us to look at these new technologies is really how do we up our game? How do we constantly improve and evolve in terms of safety and production and all the other important aspects of our operation. So for sure, thanks for sharing that. Great. All right. There's a few questions around technology co-ops. And yeah, we have several operations, I know, in our coal business unit. So just to give you guys a little bit of insight, and I'll speak to the recruitment piece at the end a little bit more detail, but we definitely have roles in the technology space at operations. So Jared in particular has a couple roles on his team, and that's at our Fording River operations. But I guess something that's kind of important for us to highlight, and maybe you guys could speak to this a little bit, is thinking about as a co-op with tech, I guess, is there any advice you would give to an incoming co-op? What sort of technology should they start learning, or is there anything in particular, or is it just like a broad sort of interest? And maybe Jared, I'll throw that to you first to sort of speak to what sort of technologies people are getting exposed to as a student and co-op.
I'll speak from the site-based mining engineering point of view.
Okay.
So when I went through university, C++ was what they taught us, and it was just one course. And at that point, there was no VBA being taught. So I graduated university with like very minimal C++ and no VBA. So fast forward 6-7 years, I'm very behind the curve in what I can do with data manipulation by myself. Over the past 2 years, I've taught myself SQL and Power BI so that I can get the essential data that I need out of our main databases and do a bit of analysis myself. I would say it's important for me to continue to move up in the company, as I'm not going to get the skill sets that you guys probably have at this point in my career. So my recommendation, while you're in school and while you're on co-ops, get immersed in that basic kind of everyday data, language, and programs. SQL and Power BI are great first steps. If you can do those skills in the mining industry right off the top, you'll be a step ahead.
Awesome. All right, Varun, do you want to mention anything there from your end?
Yeah, it's really good. Like Jared mentioned SQL, and for those of you that haven't been venturing into SQL, it's really easy to learn because the syntax it's in English. So even if someone gives you an SQL script, but just by reading it, you would understand what's happening in there because it's written in plain English. So that shouldn't be a big learning curve. But as we've seen in the industry, Excel has been like slowly going away. That's what I see, because it'll give up on you after a certain amount of data. So that's where Power BI, and if you're interested, Python can help you to really make sense of the data and draw those business insights. So
awesome.
Yeah,
great. And then I guess that's really important, I think, for people to sort of get an understanding of what they need to come in learning. And obviously, a lot of that stuff we're going to teach along the way, or you'll get exposure as a co-op here too. But I guess, can you guys talk to me a little bit about what sort of technologies are coming at operations right now, or what's your main priorities in your particular jobs in terms of technology rollout? And Jared, maybe I'll throw it to you first. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'll start. I work specifically in the load and haul space, we call it, so shovel and truck material movement. So the big ticket item on the load and haul space in the coal business unit for tech, at least, has been what we call truck allocation tool. On our site, we've got about 10 different performing trucks, whether they're size or engine related. And our hauls are about 10 kilometers long, and we have 3 different mining areas separated by 10 kilometers in between all of them. So optimizing that haul fleet is incredibly, it's impossible for a human to do with a data-driven approach, right? So the data science team uses a combination of machine learning, AI, and optimization to let the dispatcher put inputs to represent any situation of the mine at any time in the shift. Click a button, and in about a minute and a half, get a solution with all of the 50 variables considered, that tells them where they should put their 75 truck haul fleet. It's a massive step in the direction of data on the front line, which comes with its challenges of now you're using data to drive decision making instead of historical experience. And that's kind of my job, is to bridge that gap of frontline individual and data science.
Great. Thanks, Jared. That's a great explanation. And Varun, do you want to talk a little bit about what your main priorities are and what sort of the next step for you in your position in terms of technology?
Yeah, so as many companies are migrating to cloud-based technologies, and tech has been doing the same. So cloud technologies, pick your technology, whether it may be Google Cloud or Azure or AWS. Get familiarized with cloud-based technologies and how you can do computations on cloud with your chosen programming language. So that's what is happening in the industry right now.
Okay,
so if that
great.
gives you a good start.
Perfect. Great. All right. And I'm anxious. I know I'm mindful of time. I know we have a little bit longer, but I do want to introduce another student that's on the line. And I think something that it's really important for us to highlight. And I think the whole purpose of this sort of call today is really to show the variety of type of roles that we have. So you have, your quote unquote traditional mining engineer roles. Then we have some variations of that. And another variation that we have here today is I have a student, Jessiel, who works with our water quality group. And again, other technologies, other sort of perspective on operations. So Jessiel, would you mind sort of turning your mic on and maybe just telling us a little bit about the experience you've had with tech? And I think that gives people a little bit more, a different perspective, I guess, in terms of different technologies and how we sort of work with our mine sites.
Yeah, sure thing. So as Stacy said, I'm Jessiel Austin, and I'm a mining engineering co-op. I do mineral resource engineering at Dalhousie University, Nova Scotia, and I work on the water quality department, water quality management, and on the planning team. So my supervisor, she's a mining engineer, and I work a lot with the project lead, who's a geologist. And one of the main projects I've been working on is developing a future water treatment cost calculator, which basically uses theoretical project details to cost out some water treatment facilities on the mine sites to make sure that we're, within environmental compliance, so that we're able to mine, because that's what the permits say. And then, so we use these costs now to help develop and like assess mine plans for the mine sites. And like a lot of that, as Stacy mentioned, the technologies that we're using is a bit different, but they're still technologies nonetheless. So the first one is like active water treatments, and that's basically just a water treatment plant that, requires a lot of human interaction. But then we're trying to phase that out and utilize or already mined pits which is saturated rock fills. So that basically uses the empty pits and then backfills them. And as time goes on, they develop like microbes, and those treat the contaminants that we're already trying to treat. That one's very new, and we're very excited about that one. And one of the simpler ones, in like process at least, is clear water diversion. So those simply just redirect the water so they avoid contact with the mine sites overall. And yeah, so I learned a lot about those kind of projects and processes, and really and truly a lot of project management and also project development, because working with these, there's a lot of big pictures, but then working with the small details, for example, developing like cost references in the calculator, I got to meet with a lot of consultants. So yeah, meeting with a lot of different people who know a lot of different things to try and culminate it into one easy to use tool. That's been very exciting, even though at first it was a bit overwhelming, because I'm just a little co-op student. I don't know how to do all of that, but you learn and you get some support.
That's awesome. Great. Yeah, and I think that, I really wanted to bring Jessiel on here today too, because I think it really shows, we talk a lot about the technology, but the water group really is the epitome of really innovation and how we're looking at different ways to solve old problems, I guess, in a way. So it makes me pretty excited too. So Jessiel's had a really unique experience. I think that just shows the variety of where we can put co-op students in various areas across the business. Okay, there's a couple more questions in the chat, so I want to make sure we get to those. So just bear with me as I'm finding my way through. I know, Jared, you had mentioned the one there that's, you could mention about the geology one. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up.
Yeah, so Emily said in the chat she has a degree in geology and is now studying data analytics. What opportunities are available at Tech? Well, in all mining, there'll be your traditional geology opportunities, but specific to technology in the race group, I said I was in Loden Hall. Another group or domain of the race team is known as ore body knowledge. And that's all around taking basically your block model or your interpretation of the resource that you have in the ground and determining how that actually gets from the pit, out to the port. And that entire flow of information. There's a mass amount of opportunity for data analytics in that space, but also just data collection. And that's kind of why it's called ore body knowledge. Everything to do with better understanding our resource to be able to, safely reduce cost, increase production.
Perfect. Thank you for working through that one. All right. I'm just I know there's some chats going on here and here, so I'm just making sure I get all the questions. Masaki, bear with me if you see one that I'm missing here.
I see one, Stacy, where maybe it's an earlier one where students asking about are students working remotely or on site, or maybe we'll cover that in a little more detail.
Sure. Yeah. There's a bit of a combo right now, and I guess everyone knows it's there's lots of uncertainty. So our operational students are at site depending on the role, but for most part at the operational level, if they're usually needed to be at operations, so they've still been in the site, and we've just been reducing numbers where possible, just given COVID and reducing any sort of interaction in the office as possible. So things like if you're in long range planning, say for example, sometimes that you'll maybe work off site or maybe a day a week at operations. So we're seeing that a little bit of a combo at the operational level right now. We had sort of introduced people back to the office officially, so more people at operations for about a month prior to the holidays, and then we sort of shifted back now with the newest variant of COVID to try and again reduce contact. So there is a bit of a mixed bag. Shared services where Jessiel works, say for example, a lot of those offices and where Varun works as well, we've moved back to sort of remote work for now. The goal is to get our students in the office and in the operations as much as possible. So moving forward, like looking into May, say for example, we're hoping to get people back in the office by then, but I guess we're at the mercy of what's happening with this pandemic, and we keep planning, and I know universities are the same, in class, out of class, remote, so we're sort of in the same boat. But yeah, the goal is to get people as much interaction with other people in the offices when it's safe to do so. All right. Okay, and then there's, I guess, a couple other things. We talked about co-op a bit, and I don't want to monopolize all the time, but I know, a lot of people are asking about co-op, so I do want to make sure that they have an understanding of what that looks like. So I guess, Jessiel gave us a great explanation about the kind of stuff she's getting into. Jared, I know you've had students quite a bit. Can you talk to us a little bit about, and I know that one of your students happens to be on the call today, your former students, but maybe you could talk to us a little bit about what kind of projects did a co-op student get to do when they work for your team in terms of what kind of responsibility they taken on?
Yeah, for us first, we work with Stacy to tailor the students that we get for the needs of our team, which isn't one specific need. It varies as projects develop and by personality type and who we have. So first thing, we're probably 100% going to take advantage of some of your strengths that you have right away. If your strength is presenting, you might be in some of those roles. If your strength is Power BI, you're definitely going to do some Power BI. In the exact same breath, every student that comes into our team, if they don't know how to do Power BI, pretty much the first thing they do in their onboarding is like a 10 to 12 hour Udemy Power BI course, because you're going to need it to be on our team. So you'll get some of the logistical tasks, organizing team events, structuring, file management, the typical student work, but then lots of big picture stuff. We're project based, so our current student, one of them is working specifically around geology and specific gravity, and how to tie that into the payload system on trucks, how much material you're moving, Ore Body Knowledge. That's their main project. And on the other side, it's all about what we call, well, basically it's a GIS-based application to bring all mapping and spatial compliance across the site together in one piece. And they've been given free rein of that project and said by the time you leave it in August, this thing needs to be wrapped up with a bow. So we are progressing.
No pressure at all, hey?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. And then, Varun, I don't know, I guess maybe a good place, we'll sort of divert it a little bit. I know you're frantically answering questions in the chat, so I appreciate that because I'm like trying to make sure everything's being taken care of. But also was hoping that you could talk a little bit about, we've talked a little bit about the projects that are happening right now. What gets you excited about the next few years at Teck? Is there sort of a direction the industry is taking? You sort of alluded to that a little bit earlier, but is there something exciting that we're working on right now that you think is going to be sort of the next greatest and biggest thing in industry?
Yeah, definitely. So one thing that excites me is like the traditional drill and blast and the traditional ore processing is all going to change, and it's in the pipeline, it's in the nascent stages, but we are at a stage right now to really understand where your blasted rock is going from pit all the way to your consumer. Like you're really tracking ore from its in situ state to the time it becomes a cell phone or a mobile phone. So it's really interesting to draw those dots and draw that connection and really understand how quickly and how efficiently are we doing it with minimal impact. So yeah.
That's great. Yeah, it's going to be big changes. When you think about the last several years of mining, and then now fast forward to see what's changed over the past few years, and then now the next 5 to 10, it's going to be a little mind-blowing for sure.
It's going to be completely autonomous, and they'll be running mines from a centrally located hub.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. All right. Awesome. All right, and then I'll just make sure if there's any questions that come up in the chat or anybody has any other burning questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But what I'll do is just give a quick overview of recruitment side of things. And I know I've been peppering you with little details here and there, but I will go on my shameless promotion of we have posted our May co-op opportunities for Teck. So they're on the website right now. You'll see quite a few of them. Obviously, I'm going to be from the coal business unit. I have quite a few, and that's because we have the 4 active operations, as you saw in the trivia there. So we have quite a few. So you'll see a huge list, a variety of different roles. So those are within, especially on the technology side, there's several different mining engineering opportunities that we're going to have, and some of those postings will represent several opportunities within that one posting. So just know that. We also have a bunch for our digital systems group as well. So sometimes you'll see that you could have other disciplines like a mining engineer, say, for example, can apply in some of those digital system space depending on the role. So certainly take a look through all those. There's lots of really cool opportunities coming up. Most of our co-op opportunities are for 8 or 12 up to 16 months in duration. And we also have summer student opportunities posted on the website right now as well. So those are our 4-month opportunities, and those are a combination of, and you'll see that highlighted in the postings as well. There's more operational support roles. So those would be more on the labor side, but getting you some boots on the ground experience at operations. And then there's some that are more engineering specific roles. And there's a variety of those that fall into that engineering posting. And then we have like some other business opportunities as well. So just take a look at that. And just on the screen here, you'll just see some comments of some former students that work for us. So again, we've sort of highlighted throughout the conversation today, the kind of variety and the kind of impact that students make to our operations. And this is just a little bit of testimonies on how their students sort of reported on how their experience was with Teck. So I can confidently say that we're giving students some great experience here, and they have a lot of fun while they're here, whether it's obviously through the job, but then also in the lifestyle piece. We hadn't really talked about the locations in depth, but to give you some idea about where our co-op opportunities are and where you could join. So obviously the coal business unit, like I mentioned, we're in southeastern BC, so in the beautiful Rocky Mountains, and some really great lifestyle. You saw it in the video there from Kate's video. So lots of fun stuff to do in your off time. In addition to that, we also have our trail operations, which are our mineral processing facility, and they have, again, some great communities. It's really close to Roslyn. There's a ski hill there as well. Some really great community to live in. And then also our Highland Valley Copper Operations, which is near Kamloops, BC. Again, some great lifestyle options, some outdoor activities. So really, we're pretty lucky. We're based in some pretty spectacular locations. And then you move further west again, you're in Vancouver for our race team, or for our Vancouver head office as well. So I can't say enough good things about that city. It's a pretty spectacular place to live too. So yeah, whatever you're looking for, we've probably got it somewhere across our business. All right. Some more questions popping up there. So I'll just going to quickly jump through those. And if you guys could bear with me, if you got a couple of minutes to hang in there. So in terms of recruitment process, while I'm chatting about that, there's a couple of questions around that. For the May co-op job postings, we're likely going to start interviewing over the next, either next week or the week after. It'll be ongoing for about a month and a half. So we'll try and tackle certain positions in a batch, and then work through them, and then get offers out and move forward from there. So you'll see contact from myself and my team, as well as the team from Trail and Highland Valley Copper, depending on the role you applied for, over the next month, but starting probably next week or the week after would be sort of the beginning stages of our recruitment process. For EIT opportunities, I know someone's highlighted that as well. We're looking, and full-time opportunities, those are ongoing all the time as needed. So we don't have a certain time of year that we hire new graduates or EITs. So what I would suggest to people is really keep an eye on the website. There are lots, literally daily, we have over, hundreds of opportunities right now that we're currently recruiting through, whether they're live on the website or we're going through the process of recruitment right now. So there's lots of opportunity. So certainly I would say if you're graduating, say in May, for example, or April, I would start applying likely in February, March. And that's a pretty realistic time frame to really think that, hey, we could hire a new graduate and we're able to work with that timeline of their availability. So that would be what I would suggest, maybe a couple of months prior to your availability. Start really diving deep into the getting your resume out there, start applying for jobs. So that does take a little bit of time to get through the process for sure. We do get quite a high volume for a lot of our new graduate and EIT roles. So certainly you have to be patient and just go through the process. That being said, if you're a former co-op, if you're looking for a co-op opportunity, like we mentioned earlier, we do hire a lot of our former co-ops for some EIT graduate positions, or a lot of our EIT graduate positions. And I'm all about the numbers right now because I've just been some year-end calculating, and for last year, over half of our EIT roles were filled with former co-ops. So certainly speaks to the benefits of having some experience with the company as well. Maybe, Vern, I might rely on you to help me out with this one. There's someone asking about a junior product owner role. And if you can maybe speak to that a little bit. They're a graduating chemical engineering student and interested in a more digitally focused role, but don't have a computer science degree. Is that something that you've seen come through with the race team?
Yeah, so chemical engineering, I would see parallels with our processing teams, and processing teams would need product owners. But as the role product owner goes, you would be expected to know the specific domain more than if you know a specific programming language or not. Also, all of our development, the software development, happens in an agile fashion. So knowledge about agile technologies and how agile teams work would be useful. So you wouldn't need programming per se, but understanding of how tech works is important. I hope it helped.
Yeah, and Vern, I guess, can you elaborate a little bit further on that? Like, what does a product, can you maybe, because for those on the call who might not understand, what's a product owner position itself? Like, what do they do? What's a day-to-day look like?
So a product owner's day-to-day is mostly conversational. So they are the liaison between the actual development team, the software development team, and the mining people at the site. So they lay the vision for the product to be developed that's going to empower the users, and they are responsible for meeting the product goals, like features and releases. For those of you who are in software, they don't understand these terms. So they plan out the features.
Okay, nice. Yeah, that's a big there's a few roles that sort of, and you know, Jared had sort of alluded to it a little bit too, that link between the technology team and the operational team, and making sure the products that we're providing are really adding value at the operation.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. That's great. All right. Okay, and then any other questions in the chat that I'm missing, Misaki? Have you seen any that I missed? I'm just doing a frantic search through.
This has been a very busy chat where we got questions and answers. So I'm definitely, I think we've covered most. I think Varun and Jared have done a great job of answering those questions that students have asked. So I think we're good. There was a question about full-time job opportunities. I'm not sure if we need to touch on those in any more detail.
I did touch on that, you know, like I say, start looking if you're looking to graduate. If you're already graduated and you are actively looking for work, another little tip that I often give people too is to sign up for job alerts. So basically you go on there and then you'll get pinged when a job comes up that's relevant to this, like your skill set, say, for example. So if you're a process engineer or whatever it is, anything that's requiring that skill set, they'll ping you for it. So then you can sort of take a look. The other suggestion I always tell people is that we often don't call positions exactly what you might expect them to be called. So it might not always say mining engineer. It might have some different titles and different names. Just it might be a little bit for the industry, like things like operational excellence, business improvement. You'll see that we might hire mining engineers or other disciplines within those spaces, but it might not be super intuitive for you to think, oh, I'm going to check out this operational excellence role. So I guess what I would do as a suggestion to do a little bit of homework on the tech website, take a look at some of those different roles that you're not really sure what they are based on the title. We love that as a company. We just like to keep you challenged. So just make sure you go in and take a look and see what those jobs require, and make sure it's something that, hey, maybe that's something that's super interesting to you hadn't really considered otherwise. Like, you know, when Varun had talked about the product owner job, I know I've had that question a few times before. People are like, what's a product owner? What do I have to know? You know, we can hire a variety of people within that role, assuming you have that skill set and that interest in that particular field. So something I just always, you know, a little word of advice for people to definitely read up on the different roles that we have, and some of them are industry specific, some of them are just really tech specific. So it's worth a peek to make sure you understand what you're looking for. All right.
I'd like to point out that with RACE, we've also transformed a lot of HR too, right? Like we've brought in so much technology to automate, and it has simplified the process of getting hired, and we are focusing on giving you the best experience possible. Mm-hmm. So it's not the job we are selling you the experience.
Yeah. So. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're speaking my language, Varun. A lot of it we talk about is that candidate experience and making sure they're, you know, getting communicated with and you know, understand what we're looking for. And so that's why we try and do these sort of seminars. It's just to make people aware of what we have out there and how to go about it. And I want to set you up for success if you want to go through this process. So, and that's a big priority for a lot of us here. If we're going to hire, we want to make sure we get the best people in front of the hiring managers and get the best, give you the best experience as a candidate as well. Great. All right. I think we've covered all the questions, Misaki. Nothing else I'm missing?
I think, yeah, we're very thorough. Yeah, nice job, team. So, well, maybe I should some thank yous. So thank you, Jared and Varun, for your insight, and Jaciel for backing them up, and Irvini and Stacy. Another successful campus coffee. Thanks all students for joining.